Hello everyone. Today we're going to handle an action in the store. After an action is created and dispatched, the Redux store needs to know how to respond to that action. This is the job of a reducer function. Reducers in Redux are responsible for the state modification that take place in response to actions. A reducer takes state and action as arguments, and it always returns a new state. It is important to see that this is the only role of the reducer. It has no side effects. It never calls an API endpoint, and it never has any hidden surprises. The reducer is simply a pure function that takes state and action and returns a new state. Another key principle in Redux is that state is read-only. In other words, the reducer function must always return a new copy of state and never modify the state directly. Okay, so that's really important. It doesn't change objects. It just simply feeds back a whole new object that is different. Redux does not enforce state immutability, however, you are responsible for enforcing it in the code of your reducer functions. There's no rule. Redux isn't going to throw an error if you mess with the state, if you alter the existing state, but you need to be responsible for that. So that's something to think about if you're understanding this. You'll practice this in later challenges. The code editor has the previous example as well as the state reducer function for you. The code editor has the previous example. So here we have the state, then we have a reducer. Here we have a store is initialized, and then we have a constant of login action. We're returning the type of login. Fill the body of the reducer function so that if it receives an action of type login, it returns a state object with login set to true. Otherwise, it returns the current state. Note that the current state and the dispatched action are passed to the reducer, so you can access the action's type directly with action.type. Okay, cool. So, what we need to do, we want to fill in the body of the reducer function so it receives an action type of login. What we're going to want to do is we're going to fill in the body of the reducer function so that if it receives an action of type login. So if we receive an action dot type of type login, if we receive an action of type which is equal to login, and it's important to make this all capitalized, it returns a state object with login set to true. So we want to return a state object in which login, an object which login is set to true. Otherwise, it returns the current state. Else returns state. And dispatched actions are passed to the reducer, so you can access the action's type directly with action.type. So you can kind of test this by console logging things in here. Action.type. So in which we're running here, it's not going to return that. So the first thing it's going to do is check to see if it's returning the state. We can throw state in here. If we console log state, we see the login set to true there. If we console log state down here, oh, it doesn't happen because it renders underneath the return statements. Yeah, cool. That's the way this one works. Another way you could refactor this, you don't need to actually have an else statement because your if statement will take the situation in which the action type is set to login, and then if it doesn't do that, you just return the state. Redux is going to do that a lot. It's just going to, if something doesn't happen, it just always returns state. Yeah. This becomes more and more clear as we move forward. So for now, we'll just leave it here. But thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next lesson.